Hello, everyone. I prepared this last radio for you, which I will talk about basically using an example, using this paper. I will exemplify how to replicate regression analysis. And also I prepare some extensions, some useful functions that I think might be useful for your final projects or your even your future when you are doing your graduation projects. Okay, so so this paper, this is an econ paper published a few years ago. It's actually talking about we can see recently there is a lot of advancements in terms of medicals in technologies, especially in the US. But what's the real effects of these pharmaceuticals innovation? What's the exact economic benefits? Can we kind of estimate that? We will assume there should be some economic benefits, right? Apart from for the pharmaceutical firm, they can sell the new drug. But apart from that, can the society as a whole or the economy as a whole kind of benefit from that innovation? If that's real the cases, how much people can benefit from that? This is something worth to pay attention by the economists. So in this paper, the author actually find a very interesting setting. They use a different analysis, and later on they also use some more advanced IV's estimation to find a substantial positive effects in terms of medical's innovations on the labor market, especially on the labor supply. So labor supply particularly means that where there's more people, maybe without the drugs, those people with some chronic disease, they cannot work, or they cannot work that much in the labor market. But with the medicines, then now they can work. They're more likely to work, find jobs in the labor markets, and also they probably can work longer hours like that. Okay, so the particular interesting setting the author find is so during 2004 there is a removal of one of the one key drug from the markets in 2004. They actually use that for use that as a different setting. You will see exactly how. So this vials drug is actually one of the brand name for the CROP2 inhibitor. CROP2 inhibitor is one type of drugs that widely prescribes to those to treat those chronic pain or inflammations and primary market under the brand names of Wise and others. So basically, this is a drugs that can help with the long-term pain due to some inflammations. So you can imagine it should be widely used. So a particular the specific specification of a use is like here. Is the main specification using a panel data. Okay, so the data set of a use is actually a data come from the MEPS, a series of survey administrators since 1996 by the Agencies of Healthcare Quality Research and the National Centers of Health Statistics. Okay, and the surveys compete by household at the household levels, and in fact. So they actually have several rounds of wages of survey, so that the author actually use a panel data on that. So the key specification, this is some variables that particularly the offer, if they takes the round one's panel 6 2004 panel surveys from this data set, the MEPS data, so they can look at the characteristics of those surveys individuals, like the ages. Well, in fact, when they do this when they do this summary statistic, they didn't use the whole sample. They actually use one particular part of the data to look at that. So we can kind of replicate this data a little bit. Let me show you how. I mean, if my memory is correct, I didn't ask you to replicate the, I think I didn't ask you to replicate the summary statistic table, only the regression tables, right? But it's helpful if you know how to summarize the data. So, so as usual, I will clean up the space, although the space is cleaned up, or sometimes you can use in restart art to clean up everything. And then I set the working directory. And I can actually look at what's the file available in my working directory using the list of files command. So I can see under this folder, the working directory, this is the files that I have. So particularly, I will use this CSV file, the data_example CSV. So, so I have to change it here. Here I actually use data sample CSV. So I will use the CSV function. And the other thing, probably I don't need to write a separator. Okay, so let's read it. Read the file. Now I have the data load in my working directory. I can look at what kinds of variable I have using this name function. These are all the variable I have. So panel night, I think you're referring to, yeah, the panel night data. I can actually look at panel night. Oops, oh, sorry. I have to write the data and then quote the name of the variable. So yeah, panel night round 1. Yeah. So this is round 1 panel night data. And I can look at some header, some first several variables in the data set. This is the variables that we have here. And I can kind of summarize the data a little bit as well. So by that, it will list out all the minimum, maximum, medium, means, and other quanti for each of the variables in this data set. Okay. So, so first I will look at some summary statistic. I load in the libraries and holy shit. So deep prior, did I? Deep prior, yeah. No. Yeah, here I have the deep prior. Okay, probably doesn't matter. So you can see there's a in this data set we have the individual's ages and sex and his probably his whether it's a black or white persons, right? So in totals, in this table, we actually look at some statistic of ages, percentage of male, high school graduates, I think this one, HS colleague, and also the percentage of bachelor. I think that they were referring to the some college and college variable. But here the data I got is actually have some problems. So all these observations are MA, that means missing. So probably I shouldn't use this variable. If you summarize a missing variable, that will provide you nothing. And the percentage of white, percentage of black, and percentage of working, we have a variable called the health status that referring to the data. If I look at the code book, they're referring to the data of condition. This is 0 to 1 score on the self-rate health status. And percentage of working, and here there is a variable working. And the physical job, here we have a variable called the physical final. Okay, that's whether you undertake a physical job, percentage, and some other variable, and also the wages, right? The wages, the variable is actually, if I look at the code books, that's this one, a long WT. Okay, the long WT, where is it? Here. This is referring to the wages. So, so first, I have to look at. Let me look at the data a little bit. If I look at the ages, the minimum number is -1, and the maximum number is 85. The mean is 32, so it covers actually different ages in surveys individual. I think -1 probably is, I don't know, the unborn or the first year born. Maybe probably their parents answer this questionnaires for them. Anyway, but for this particular exercise, we want to restrict the sample for those ages between 55 to 75. Right? So we have to restrict the ages a little bit. So let's do that by generate a new sample. Okay. In fact, I actually generate a new variable by sex because I want to know the particular percentage of female. But I actually generate that when I prepare this R script. So so you can see there is already a variable here. But suppose if I don't have this variable, for example, if I want to delete a variable, I think in the deep prior there is a function that I can delete a variable, which I can use a subset command. For example, if I want to delete a variable, so suppose I want to delete this female variable I generated before, and then I generate it again to show you. So I use the subset command. There is two functions of subset command from dpri. You can either select some of the subsample, a part of the sample by some condition from the data. You can also select some of the variable from the data. So now I select, so from this data, I select minus female, means that delete the female's variable. Wait a minute, probably I forget to write something. So when you ever have question, you can subset from, yeah. Oh, right. Column to select from. So yeah, here I actually forget a command. I have to write. So the select is actually equals to minus female. Minus means delete. So if I do that, look at this variable. If I do that, so now I don't have the female variable here. It has been deleted. Okay. So whenever you run the commands in R, and then you see this, after you run, you see this arrows symbol. It means that you actually it runs through. Okay. Oh, by the way, for your final project, you're required to submit the report as well as the R script. This is one example of the R script for me. So how can you create your own R script? So after you open R, you can click here. There is a plus symbol here, right? You can click it, and then you can see R script, right? The first option. And if you select that, they will create a blank text file, and then you can write all your code here. You can even copy some of the code that I write, like this one that I sent to you. Oh, sorry. Oops. I should use, right? And then you can change the working directory to your own working directory, and then write everything. And then after you write all your code to run the result that you report in your final project's report, you can actually save this file. Like, so here in the file, click Save As, and then save to the directory that suits you. Like you should call it the ECON3005 / final project, and then your name, or your student number, and then you save the file. So the file, I just saved to my desktop, so the file will be at my desktop. So the file will be, let me look at here. So here, I already saved this. This is a file that I just saved, right? You should also send me this file. And whenever, if you want to open, for example, if I close this one, if I want to open R script to reuse that for the analysis for another time. You know, if you finish one question at one day, and then you want to do the rest at another day, and you close R. In fact, when you, as I said, because everything's, the nice thing about RStudio is it will save the things that from your last operation. So if you, for example, here I still keep this replication file, and then I close the R, and I save everything. If I reopen R, I can see this this R script already opens for me. But of course, I have to load everything again, load the data into the environments again. In the case that you close your R script and you want to open it, you can click this one to open an existing file. And then, for example, I save in my desktop. So here, this R script, I can reopen it. Okay. So continuous. Yes. Let me load all the file again. Okay. And then I wonder. Sometimes you will see some error message like this. Oh, yeah, it failed to load in the dpry, probably due to some. The problem probably come from I installed some other dependency package before. So let me kind of restore the dpry again. Why? So if you see this error message like this has error and then failed to load, and below it actually tell you oops. Yeah, yeah. Yes. That's because another package called elliptic. Let's try to store elliptic. Elliptic. The name of it. Which needs compile. Yeah, probably I have to delete this package and restore it. How to delete the package? I keep forgetting the commands. So let's delete the package. I think we talked about that some times ago. Okay, we can use remove package. Okay, let's try this one. Remove. Okay, remove package. Did I? Yeah, LLIPSS. Yes, this wire about the software is later binary is compliant. Should. No, probably this. Oh, yeah. Currently low interval space. Why is that? Let's try another way. So we can use uninstall. Let's see how we can. Yeah, remove package should be fine. Let's try that again. What's the name again? The package ellipse PSIS. Yeah. Did I? Yeah. Let's install dpry again. And then I load this again. Yeah, this work. Okay. Sometimes I've even you see I actually loaded the dpry int. Oh, okay. So you can see this mark here. Sometimes when you load a package or lower commands in R, And in the console, you see it seems it worked, but still you see some warning message. That's okay. So if you see in the console after you're running command and you saw some error a warning message, that's probably some preset message to be sent to you by the package compiler about they want to remind you about some things that there's some potential threat or error, but it doesn't mean your command didn't go through. Okay, only if you see some particular error message, that's a different thing. So again, inside the data, I have this female variable, but I want to generate it again. I can use a subset and select minus female, means delete this variable, and then I don't have it anymore. So in the sex variable, so from the codebook, I know that one referring to those male. We also have a male variable here, and two means female. But I want to generate another variable. If it's female, then take it as 1. So I generate a variable called female and as number if the sex equal to 2. So it means that if the sex equal to 2, this particular command is actually a logical judgment, right? So it means that if the sex equal to 2, generate 1, and then if it's not, returns me true, and then if it's wrong, return me false. But now change these logical judgments into a numbers domain. For example, if I delete this one and I directly write if wait a second. Oh, shoot. And then, but I need to generate this as not as a logical judgment, but as a number. So I used as numery. It's actually telling if sex equal to 2. Then if I run this one, it will generate the variable, so female x1. Okay. So let's print it to see. So this is the data I have. And then I generate another vector to indicate all those variables that I want to summarize. So using the C command to generate a vector called sum variables. So after I run this, so in my environment, I generate, so this is not a data frame, this is a value. So a vector contain all this string that's referring to variable name. So, and then I generate another sum data, a subset of data from the original data, that if those name match this list, this means that from the data set called data, and using this square blanket that's referring to variables in the data, the columns of the data frames, right? If you see the data frame as a matrix. So, so which column I want to choose? So those columns that from this is some variable. So each one of those. And then I also want to subset it as those age between 55 and 75 using the subset command. If I run that, so I can create another data frame. It contains less observation because it will delete those variables that are not matched to my needs, and then also only selects a part of the variables that I want to summarize. So then from the deep prior, I can actually, so I can start from here, from the sum data, I put it using this pi line, using this pi lines symbol, I flow this data into a group by command. So group by, because by the join condition, I want to see if it's 1, summarize the data. If it's 0, summarize the data again. And then by this variable, summarize, using the summarize each, means that summarize each of the variable inside this data, using the function of mean. And then inside the function of mean, dot means every variable. And then comma, and I add another arguments, na them dot rn, means that if there is a missing value, na, how I treat them. If I treat them as this one argument as true, meaning that if you see this observation is missing, just throw it away, ignore it when you calculate the mean. But in case that if I run this one, these are all the results that I have. So when the join equal to 0, this is a summary statistic. Equal to 1 is a summary statistic. But there's one thing. First of all, it didn't show everything. There's one more variable it didn't show because in the console it can only show some of the contents in one line. So I can actually assign this, and I can actually assign a name to this summary tables the commands generate, and then I can record that. So I assign a name called the sum table 1, and I run it. So it generates another variable. If I open that, that's the result that I have, right? That's the result that I have. But again, this data I see the variable is in, each variable is in row, but here each variable is in column. So can I kind of transform it? I can actually using the transpose command. So I throw everything into a transpose command. That's transform means that change for a matrix, you see the data frame as a matrix, change your column into row and row into column. That's what we call the transpose. So if I also throw everything into a transpose command, again, now everything is in, so the variable is in a row now. But you can see this doesn't look very good, right? You actually use the scientific notation. It means that for example, this one, it means that 6.26 something times the 10 and taking the minus taking the 1 exponential of 10. Okay, so I can actually forbid art to show scientific. So if I search on Google's no scientific notation in R, I can actually find the answer in the Step Overflow. So as long as I using this command, it will disables all the scientific notation in R. So I can copy this one. Okay, so run this, and then, oops. Then you can see everything is in the normal numbers that I see. If you compare this number against the original paper, you see most of them are very similar, but still you can see some discrepancy for some variables like the wages. If that's the case in your variable, that's okay. I mean, I explained to some of your customers who joined our Zoom section yesterday and the day before yesterday. If you run the regression using the right specification and you find that your result is has some discrepancy with the original result in the table, that would be fine. I will not judge your output based on whether you can replicate exactly the same as the table, but I will grade you based on your R script, based on the function you use in the R script, the regression equation you write in the R script. I will judge whether it's correct, whether it's the same as the papers used. Because most of the papers I sent to you, they actually create those results using the status package. And that means status, some of the command, you know, whenever you run the regression or whenever you run the more advanced methods like the IV, diff-in-diff, and panel data, the underlying algorithms, each of the commands that either R or status call for the calculation to save time, there is actually many different kind of way that you can finish some computation to solve the those algebra problems that involve to give you the estimation result. So it is possible that when the programmer to write those commands, they actually use a different type of computation algorithms, computation procedures to generate the results. So normally we will expect the result, even you use different package, that should be very similar to each other. But sometimes we do see there might be discrepancy. But those discrepancy has nothing to do with with your project. I mean, with our grading. So I will not judge your output based on whether you can exactly replicate those numbers from the paper, but I will judge based on your R script. So remember to send me your R script. I will see whether the command you write is correct or not. Okay, I will judge based on that. Okay, so let's move on. So the next section we'll talk about a simple regression. Here, let's look at the regression they use. So this is the baseline regression. The dependent variable is working. It's an indicator equal to 1 if the individual reports they are working at any point at the NEPS run. And ager is the series indicators report ages. Join is equal to 1 if individuals report a join condition. So a condition that actually need the medicines we mentioned before. And then the remove is an indicator variables equal to 1 for observation following if the firm, this pharmaceutical Merck, actually remove those particular drug called vice. So the key diff-in-diff variable is actually the interaction between join and the remove, meaning that they actually compare. So after remove, you in the survey individual, you can separate them into two types, right? You can see the join as a treatment variable. That means that whether you have a condition that actually need the medicines, or you don't have a condition that need any medicine, need this particular medicine, and then remove is kind of like the post or the treatment variable. It means that okay, so for those compare those patients that we see need a drug, and see what's the outcome of the remove, and use those who do not need, those individuals do not need the drug as do not have the symptom as a control group, as a comparison group. Okay, this is kind of like a different settings, right? So the remove is kind of like a post variable. So this is the key variable we are interested in, tau2, the interaction term between remove and join, kind of like the post and the treatment variables, right? And then have a lot of control variables as well, including race, sex, education, MEPS regime, and the pi is an indicator variable for each interview's time period, and then there's error term. So here, this is the variable that we want to add into the regression. The dependent variable is working, right? So the working is our dependent variable, and then our key variable, so join is our treatment variable, pose is the pose indicators, right? So the interaction term, we already generate that. Actually, in the data set, we already have that called the remove join. Okay, remove join. And then we control for the control, it's a race. So control whether it's white, black, or Hispanic. Another, that's referring to race. And then sex, we use whether the factor variable of sex. Okay, so and then education, whether it's high school, graduate, whether it's no high school, I control for that as well. And then what the other variable, we need to control the regions and also the interview time. And also I need to treat these two variables. So this is, you can see this is a categorical variables, right? Like which regions this survey individuals from. So I have to treat this variable as a dummy variables, just like in the Mississippi's experiments, right? So I have to treat each of the indicator, the variables of the state as an individual individual's a dummy variable. So how to do that? So in fact, the regions, and in fact, in the data, the author also want to treat the ages not as a category, not as a linear variable. So I have to tell R this variable is actually a factor variable. The factor variable is a particular name R give to referring to categorical variable. Okay. So if I tell R, I tell the command, the region, this particular variables that we throw into the regression is a factor variable, then R will automatically know to treat it as a categorical variable. Then it will create a bunch of dummy variable referring to each of the category in this variable. Okay. So now treat the ages, regions, sex, and dummy time as dummy variable for me. And again, I need to use a subset of data, right? So for the data argument, using not the whole data, using a subset of data, those age between 55 and 75. So if I run this one, and then again, assign a name to the result. And this is actually a good practice to assign a name for each of the regression result that you run. I will show you why this is actually a very, very good practice in a second. So let's run it. And then I can use it to summarize the code result. The result already stored in an object called table31_sim. So this is the result. So now you can see it actually treats each of the ages, each category in the age variable or region variable or time variable as a dummy variable. And for example, for sex, you actually have two categories, but remember you have to remove at least one of that, right? To make the models saturated, not to violate the saturated assumptions of the models that I have to, the system will automatically leave out at least one categories in the categorical variable. But again, ignores those control variables. This is the key variables that we're concerned. Okay. But in fact, the author actually do more to the variables, to the papers they use. For example, here, if you read this notation carefully, and you should do that, okay? In the notation, the author will tell you what kinds of other treatments they actually applies to the regression. For example, whether they use a robust standard error and other things. For example, here, so it actually tells that, okay, the sample they use is age between 55 and 75, right? So we use a subset command to do that. And in fact, in the table, the offer didn't report didn't report those control variable to save space, but the unreported control, including the indicator of ages, MEPS run, sensor region, sex, race, Hispanic, ethnicity, education, etc. And then here, all the specifications are weighted using the MEPS longitudinal weight. So the offer actually weigh the sample a little bit, weigh the regression a little bit. So let's look at the data. You actually have a variable called weight. So we have to use that as a weight, right? So how can we add weight to a regression? So let's look at the original commands we use, the LN command. You actually have the options called, here you can see, here, they actually provides an options called weights. So you're just using this argument. Okay, so after the data argument, after a comma, I also add the weights. Remember, the argument is actually called weights. So you can actually use multiple variable to weigh your regression. But here, the offer only using one. So you only offer in one. But again, for this particular argument, it has S inside. And then the variable we use as a weight is this weight variable without S. And then I can do that, generate another set of result, and then summarize it again. And look at the key variable. So before, okay, this is the results before without weight. So the result is actually minus 0.035, right? If we round it. But after we weight it, now it becomes 0.039. It's actually larger after you weight, because weighting will change the coefficients, right? But in terms of statistic, in terms of the P, it's a significant after weight, and it is significant before weight, both at the 5% level. So 1 star means 5% levels, right? That's the default significant level. 1 star means 0.05, that's 5% level. We can also look at the t-value here is smaller than minus 1.96, so it's significant at 5% level. So p-value here is actually 0.025 if you round it. It's also smaller than 0.05, right? So it's at least significant at 5% level, meaning that 95% you can reject the null hypothesis at 5% level, meaning that if you make the decision to reject null hypothesis, 95% of the time you're actually making the right decision based on a true as the correlation relationship instead of a sample variability, error from sample variability. Okay. And also, in fact, if you look at the standard error, the offer actually report the standard error to customers at individual level, because this is actually a panel data. It included, it surveys different individuals for several times. Like here, this is an indicator. The ident is an indicator for each of the individual. They assign an ID. So for the same individual, like with the same ID, it actually surveyed 5 times, right? It has 5 round survey. So we can use another command if you want to do for this particular exercise. The offer actually use a cluster, and for some exercise, the offer will use robust standard errors, right? We can use. I think we introduced another package before how to do robust standard error, but you can also use this package. This is a more updated package that give you more flexibility to do robust standard error. You can using this lm_robust command from the estimate_r package. So while you have to install the package before you use it, I already installed it, so I directly called the command. So inside the lm robust, so let me delete this. So I use exact the same command as before, the weighting regression, and then I run this. Will give me look at the key result here. The coefficient is the same as before, but the standard error actually changes and it's no longer significant now. But again, actually robust standard error, there is many different ways to do robust standard error. If we look at the command, it actually provides many different types of robust standard error. But as I said, because like here, I should say, you can cluster a robust a different way. We don't need to know that for now. But as I said, because most of the paper I asked you to replicate, originally they actually use data to run. So you can actually select the SE, the standard error type as data to create a more similar result as those paper. If I do that and then run it again, so these are the results. Again, the coefficient doesn't change, it only will change the standard error. But now it's no longer significant. And in fact, because this is a panel data, so actually the offer at a cluster as well, cluster at individual level. But we didn't talk about clusters in class. This is more, we don't have time, and also it's more advanced topic. Particularly cluster is one of the good way that you can solve it's another good way you can solve the heteroscedasticity problem, especially when you know what kinds of potential source of heteroscedasticity. For example, panel data, because you observe the same individual for many different periods, then heteroscedasticity problem always occurs in panel data. Because if you think about that, each of the individual you observe, they already have some type of similarities, because you survey essentially the same person at different time point, right? So there is a lot of correlation in the error of those observations for the same person. So if you want to adjust that, you should use cluster. So now we use the ID for each individual as cluster to solve the heteroscedasticity problem. And there is actually 6 regression here. The first one is the original one, so I add the cluster. So the other things are all the same as before. And if I run it, this is the result. And this is the result that I have. And then again, the coefficient is very close to this ones, right? But actually, my estimation have a smaller standard error. It's here is 0.014, but here we have in the original paper it have 0.017, right? So it still have some discrepancy, but it's acceptable. But pay attention. If you look at this t-value for the for this particular the regressor of interest, it's actually minus 2.83, right? So it should be significant at least at 5% level, because it's smaller than minus 1.96, right? But why we didn't see the star as before? That is because for the LM robust, by default, it will not show you the star, okay, by default. So it's again, but it's still significant. Sorry, I probably said it wrong. So for the second regression, they use only the sample of male, third only the female. So the second regression, I add one more condition to the subset command. The male equal to 1 means that using the male sample, and then I run it. Further one using male equal to 0, that means it's female sample, right? Run it again. And then the third sample using male and who do the physical job. So I add male equal to 1, and then physical job equal to 1. And then the fifth should be male but no physical job, so equal to 0. Everything the same as before. The last one is join and bad. That's a join condition. So I use the condition equal to 1. That's the correct one. Again, why you want to assign a name to all your regression results and stored in your global environments? One thing good about that is instead of copy this variable coefficient and standard error one at each time, and then you can actually do that by calling another function from another user package. When you use a package called hub table, you can conveniently generate some ready to copy, ready to use regression tables for you. So I already installed that. So I just load it in. And then let's run it. So I don't need this one. So I have 6 regressions here, right, in this table 3. So I can put all these 6 regression. I already installed it in the global environment, right? 6. So we use a hub red command. And then I put all those regression results inside. And if I run this, so these are all the, it create a very nice already to use table for me, right here. Now you can see some of this symbol. This symbol only referring to the star, and some of the star, and also the like the pass symbols. You don't need to worry about that. And also I can use another function inside. I can assign a name to this regression table as well, called the table 3. If I assign a name, so instead of show me the table, it actually show me the table, and then it also installed it in table 3. If I open the table 3, this is the result that I saw. It's model 1, 2, 3, 6, and those coefficient, and also variable. And then I use the quick XLXX to kind of store all this table 3 result into a file called table3.slsx. That's an Excel file. So if I run that, then in my working directory, so that should be here. Right. I have an object called table 3. That's what I just generate. Okay. I open that. So it will create a very nice tables for me. And then you can, just like the tables in the paper, I can actually delete those results of the factor variable. I don't need to report those, right? And then only report, for example, I delete all those and the control variable as well. Probably I don't need that, right? And it also have a number of observation on R square, and I don't need the constants, right? I don't need the result, so constant. So I will also delete that, and then I will add some notation as well, like the first one is full samples. Second one is males, females, etc., etc. And to create and I also can generate table titles, right? Table 3, blah, blah, blah. And then I can adjust it a little bit. My favorite is, I like to use a double line for rounding the table, and then just like the just like in this regression table, using double line, and then use single lines inside to show, and also using Times New Roman, and then the font size at 12. Then I can copy these tables to my report. And also you should change this variable name a little bit to, this one should be remove Times Roman, right? So I can copy these tables to my report easily, so that you don't need to copy and paste all those coefficients and standard error. And again, in this regression, the working is actually a dummy variable, but using the LM or LM robust, we actually apply the linear probability models to estimate. But as we taught in class, we can also apply the logic or probability models, right? So how to do logic or probability models in R? That's actually easy. So in R, there is a function called the GLM that's referring to the general linear model. The general linear model. So there is many different type of general linear models. So inside, oops, this one. Inside, if we find topics, family, okay. So family. If you look at the detail, you have many different type of models that you can choose from. So basically for bivariance, if you didn't write the other lim equals to, it will referring to the bivariant. Binomial means that I actually tell us this is a binomial model. That means the dependent variable is a dummy variable. It's only have two values of the dependent variable. So if I using the GLM command, and I use the family equal to binomial, the default will be we use a logic model, okay? And another thing, I can actually weigh the model. But for GLM, it didn't allows for adjustment for the standard error. But that makes sense for the logic model. Actually, the adjustments for a robust standard error or custom standard error is more complicated. And it's quite often that when you add the robust standard error or custom standard error, the program will not return you the result, or it will return some very weird results. That's due to the underlying algorithm to generate. So if you do the logic and probability, I will recommend for now, if you don't find a better package, so don't use robust standard errors or custom standard error. So here I didn't use that. Then I generate the logic result. Again, it looks pretty weird, very, very large number. That's due to the weight. It also didn't treat the weight very well for the binomials model. So if I delete the weight, it will generate, the result is, it makes much more senses, okay? So you should consider to remove those weight and robust standard errors or custom standard error. And again, to save some time to copy and paste or writing everything, because most of the models are the same, right? Except for if I control for the factor of sex. If I using the subsets of male, I shouldn't control for the factors of sex. So I can generate two stream called the equation 1 and equation 2. The only difference is the equation 1 I control for the factor of sex, the equation 2 I didn't. So I can generate two values here, and then later on in the regression, I don't need to use to copy this whole sentence. I just use equation 2 because set the male as 1, right? And then binomials, and then we run all the regression. Oh, I think the last one should be equation 1. You use all the sample, right? And then using the hubred to get everything into a table / logic, and then write it into Excel. And look at the result a bit, and then let's see the result. Logic, where's logic here? Right. Again, I have a very nice regression table. I can delete those things that I don't need, add the rotation, change the forms, and form size and everything to create the tables I need. Okay, decorate it. We also, this is using a logic model, but how about if we want to use the Poppy model for this binomials regression? Again, using the GRM. So for binomial, the default is logics, right? But we can use the link equals to probit to tell R, instead of logic, I want to use a probit model. So the other thing are all the same as before. So I run all this 6. And then again, put it into and then write it into a Excel file called table3 probit. Table3 probit. So again, I have the result of probit model. And remember, so for the marginal effects of logic and probit, to interpret the marginal effects compared to linear probability model is more difficult, right? You cannot directly interpret as a percentage change of unit change. But you can use a function called margins from the margins library to kind of, well, in fact, for probit model, you have to compare again the C value table, C statistics table to get to calculate the marginal effect. For a logic model, you have to using the equations, the off ratio equation to calculate to back out against the marginal effects. But if you use the command from the library of margins to, again, you have to install it first, but I already do it, so I don't need it. I load in the margins library, and then, so for the probit 1, the model of 3-1, the first model using probit, give me the marginal effects. So it takes some time to calculate the marginal effects because I have so many variables. It assumes I will use up everything. Let's wait for a while. Okay, so you calculate all the marginal effect for all the variable for me. Again, you can actually store it in objects and then output it. But this is the key variables I'm concerning. So this is actually the marginal effects if we calculate it for you. So we can use a logic as well. Logic as well. Takes a while because they have to calculate for every variable. So for phi1, this is the coefficient, the corresponding marginal effects at mean is actually this one. Okay. So actually, if this is 1, meaning that if this is 1, so there is, I should interpret as a percentage, right? So times 100, so there is a 3.1 percentage more likely the individuals, or less likely the individuals will work. So in fact, for larger model, it has very similar results. So 3% less likely for the individuals to work if if they have a disease and no longer receive the drug after removal of the drug. So there's a 3% probability less likely they are going to work. Okay. And again, as I said, the data we are using now is actually a panel data. It observes different individuals for and have 5 rounds of surveys, right? We can apply the fixed effect model to remove the effects from of a year and effects of each individuals, right? So, well, one way to do that is that I can use the year and also the here is actually I can use the year and also the individuals as a fixed effects. Not year. There should be time, the time variable as, oh no, it should be round. Okay. Yeah, there are 5 rounds. So at the round, that's the time dimension of this panel data. The ident variable identity referring to identity ID. I can use the one way I run the fixed effect model. I can add these 2 as a factor variables into the model to generate all those dummy for each individuals for each year and add it in the models, right? That's one way to do it. And remember in our slide, we also introduced another way to do the demean. Means for each of the observation and each of the variable we use in the regression minus the mean for me, and then run the regression. But we can actually use another function to do it not manually, to do the demean fixed effects not manually. So we use the FELM command from the LFE package. So, but here we'll write the equation a little bit different. Let's look at the variable we used before, like the variables of join, variable remove, why, black, astonish, no high school education, high school graduates, regions, sex, time, region, sex. This variable, all these variables are time invariants, right? So I add the individual's fixed effects, because for each individual you can only have one ethnicity, and if those, because they are age 55 at least, right? So they already finished their, most of them, very likely all of them already finished education many years ago. So for each of the individual over the 5 round, these numbers are all the same. So it will observe by the fixed effect. So for the fixed effect model, I don't need to add those time invariance variable. So here I only add the remove join. This is time variance, the interaction term, and the ages is time variance, and actually regions it's most likely to be time invariance, but in the case that the individual actually move, that will be time invariance, so I still keep it. But how to write this FELM command? I will write the original regression. I will write the regression, and then using this bar symbol, and the bar symbol, and after the bar, I will write the variable, the name of the fixed effect. So here I only want to add one-way fixed effect. Just add those individual fixed effect for me. So using the identity ID, and then comma, and these are all the same as before. Comma, after comma, that would be the arguments of the model. So I run it and saved it. Oops, sorry. And I run another one. So this time, instead of controlling the identity, I don't control the identity fixed effect, I control the time fixed effect using the run variable. And the third model, I control for both the time and the individual identity. That will be two-way fixed effects, right? I'm using the two-way fixed effect. So for all these three models, I'm using the same dependent variable and control variable, using the same data. The only difference is what kinds of fixed effects I add. So I can also restrict the model a little bit to using the second column. Just look at those samples that are now, and then again, the first one at the one way of the cross-sectional fixed effect, and then the time fixed effect, and then both the two-way fixed effect, and then store those. And then using the hubrep function to store all the 6 regression results into the table 3.1, because actually this should be, I use both 1 and 2 columns, right? 1, 2. Okay. 3.1.2 fixed effects, and then 3.1.2 output it in the Excel for me. Let's look at the result. So a key variable here. So look at this. First column, I control the individual fixed effect. The second column, I control the no individual fixed effect, but time fixed effect. The third one, two-way fixed effects, right? If I compare these 3 columns using the very similar to the other things that are all the similar, you can see if I didn't control for individual fixed effects, the coefficient is much larger. After I remove the individual fixed effect means some time invariance characteristic of the individual, then the effect is actually shrinking. The effects of the drug actually shrinking. The same for the two-way fixed effects, meaning that for each of the individuals, they have some idiosyncratic difference. like you and me, we have something fundamentally different between us, either by gene, either by any other things. So if I remove all this time invariance difference between people, the effect is actually smaller. Same for if I use model 2, using only the samples for male, this is the same. It's also shrink, but the shrinking is smaller. Okay, this is the fixed effects. So now suppose that I'm interested in look at how this removal of drug, the effects, a difference between male and female. Well, one way I can look at the coefficient, it looks like it only works for male, but not for females, right? Can we do that to look at these results in just one regression, not by different regression, because we cannot directly compare this coefficient directly, because these two using different samples, right? I can actually using interaction term instead. So I add the interaction term between the join, remove join, and the male. Again, because for the male variable, it doesn't change for each of the individual over different run. So if I control for the, here I can control both. You can control the RD as well. I can add the interaction effects by remove join times male, but here I didn't. I also have to add only the remove join, the main effects, right? But I don't need to add the main effect on male because it's already absorbed by the individuals, the identity using this variable as fixed effect. It already absorbed. The same for this one. So let's look at the interaction. So for the male variable, it will automatically drop, right? So we don't need that. But for the interaction effect, this one, it's actually not significant. Meaning that if you, in fact, it's a bit different from this result. If you put the sample into one and then look at male and female, in fact, for male, there is no additional effects of removing those drugs from the patient, right? And I can also look at the interaction effects between ages. This time I should add the ages. But in fact, in case that you use this times symbols to tell us to add the interaction term, you don't need to write the main effects. The program will automatically add the main effects for you. You can see here, you can see the main effect here. It's already here, right? But again, for ages, between these 55 and 75 individual, the elder peoples, it seems there is no additional effects of the drug removal. We can kind of change the sample to see, to allow a larger variation in terms of ages. If I increase the ages, I can see over time, if I increase the sample size a little bit to include those between age 45 and 55, 54. For this new sample, it seems like if we're removing the drug and if you have it and it will, removing the drug for a younger person, it doesn't have a significant positive effects. It does not have a significant, it has significant positive effect in terms of working condition. But over time, if you are older, you're getting older, the effect become negative, okay? Meaning the very old among this new sample, they are negatively blown by the removal of drug. And for the younger sample, it's more likely probably because they're poor peoples, and when you have this medical condition, and probably you will have other needs in life, you need other drugs, so you need money, so you more likely go to work. For the real old people, that's negative effects. So next one, you can see the author actually using an IV approach as well in the paper. So the table 1 will already show you the reduced form estimation of removal using a different diff, right? So the IV is so because the survey also asked whether the doctor they prescribes the voice these particular drugs after the removal of the Merck pharmaceutical. So they're actually using the prescription of medicines and also the prescriptions like some other medicines that are kind of related to the removal of voice as an IV, as an instrumental variable. For example, the first one, the prescription of voice, the particular blend of drugs that have been removed from the market. And then using another possible IV is all the COPS2 inhibitor related drug. So using the prescription as an instrument. Think about that. Why prescription is good? A prescription will affect the patient's working conditions, right? Obviously, after you remove voice from the market, there should be less prescriptions in terms of this COPS2 inhibitors by the doctors, right? Because one of the major drugs have been removed. So no, well, one possibility is the doctor will find some alternative drugs, but that's also related to the supply of the drug, the price of the drugs. So overall, you expect the doctor is less likely to prescribe this particular drug because it can cure the pain, but it's not life-threatening drugs. So it's less likely that the doctor, the physician, will prescribe this drug, meaning that this IV is correlated with the actual use of, is correlated with the actual use of the drug. And the second thing is that it also correlated with whether this survey individual is go to work, right? If I'm a patient, but the doctor didn't prescribe these drugs for me, and this really make me feel the pain, and then it's likely I will reduce the work that I can provide to the labor market. So it's also related to the dependent variables that we're interested in. And another good thing about that is this prescription of a drug only affects my working condition through the removal, through these events, right? So it also should also satisfy the exclusion restriction. So we can actually use that. So inside the data, this variable is called voice and COP2. I can use that as IV. So for this first stage, so the first regression, I used a particular voice. It's a brand of drugs prescription. I look at the first stage. So oh no, sorry. In this regression, they actually use the remove joint, the different treatment as an instrumental variable to predict the true prescription. Okay. So the good thing about using the remove joint is it's an exogenous event, right? But it can only only affects the working conditions through this prescription, the actual prescription by the doctor to the patient. So I can run the first stage first, just using this actual variable prescription. This is the actual treatment variable, and then using our variable before as in the reduced form as the removed joint as an instrument variable, and then the other things are all the same as before. And oh, by the way, fixed effect, you can cast at the FELM, you can actually cast the standard error using this cluster variable, and then write the name of the variable you use for cluster. Then you can do the clustering. So I run 5 regression, all these 5, the first stage, and then again stored it into Excel. I can see indeed this interaction, this definitely variable, the remove and have the removal times the disease is really reduce the prescription of a particular type of drug. So the first stage is significant, just as the table, the upper panel of the table, the first stage result. And normally for regression, we didn't mention it in class, but normally for regression, the author will report for the IV estimation for the first stage. They will also report the first stage F test for the model to make sure. Normally, the good practice if this F statistic is larger than 20, this is a good model. If I look at the result, for example, for model 5, for, oh no, not this one. I can actually have the F statistic here. So each of the model, it will also report you the F statistic. And so by default, the hubret function, it will only report, let's see, let's reopen the first stage again. For statistic, you will only report the default is to only report the, let me run it again. So it only reports the number of observation R squared and some other variable that we didn't introduce. But for the first day, as I said, sometimes you want to report the F statistic as well. And if you want to require what kinds of variable you want the hubret to report, you can use that by writing this function. Writing an argument, statistic equals to, I want to report number of observation equal to NOBS R square, and hyphens here, equals R dot square and the F statistic equal to statistic. Okay, and then I rewrite these functions again. Okay, this time I actually have the F statistic as well. So that's the first stage, and the second stage, if we want to run the IV result. So as I said in class, there's a free option to run the IV estimation. So the first one is using IV ret functions in the AER package. And the way to write it is you write your regression function. This is the first the first regression in table 3, right? And then after this bar symbol, I write all the exogenous variable. So that will be included all those, except for the variable that I want to instrument. I should write it all here. And then plus the IV variable, okay? That's the first stage, the variable in use in the first stage. So after the bar, and then the data and then other things that I can run it. So this is the IV result. So this is the IV result. It's actually not significant in my estimate result. And again, for this IV ret function, you cannot add robust and error. You cannot cluster. Can you wait? I can't remember if I can wait. Yeah, I can wait. Let's see if I wait a sample. What console result we got? Again, it's very close to the significant level, but it's still insignificant. But it doesn't allow for robust and error. I can use another package. I use the same package we mentioned before, the estimate R package. And inside, it actually, apart from the LM robust, it also have a package called the IV_ret_robust. And then the way to write this is exactly the same as the IV ret command. So I first write my second stage regression. So working key variable and then our IVs, right? Oh, sorry, sorry. Here, I actually write the wrong way. I should write here, this is the right second stage. So the move joint. This is the right way to write regression. Okay. Yeah, this is the right result, sorry. I actually, so in the IV ret, you should write the second stage that will be using void to predict the prescription to predict the workings, right? And then I write the first stage without the working. I don't need to write a dependent variable. We will assume using a dependent variable. So the first stage, so all the control variables are the same. And then my IV is remove join, and then the sample, and then the weight. And we can also use another package, the IV ret robust, to add the to use the robust and error. And again, this one should be wait. and this one should be remove joint, and I can add the way. Okay, I now have the result here. Where is the key variable? Where is the void? Oh, here. So this is the result. Okay. Again, by this function, it didn't label the star. This one is very, very close to the significant level. In option 3, we can use the same FELM function. And this time, I want to adjust the function a little bit. Instead of writing the remove the subset in the data argument, I first generate a subset of variable. You can actually do that. There's an alternative way to write. I generate a subset of variable first and then add it as in the data argument. So the way of writing the IV regression in this FELM command is a little bit different from the other two options. That would be, but using this one, I can both use the fixed effect and also the IV estimation. So for working factor, so first, I write all those control variable I add into this regression, my dependent variable and then control, and then after the bar, I will first write my fixed effects, so the identity and also the run fixed effect. And then after another bar, I write in a square blanket the remove join. This is the variable I need to instrument and also the exact instrument. And then a comma, and the data equal to subset, and using the way in the data. So this is the result that have both fixed effects. So again, this is actually significant. Using an alternative way after I add all those fixed effects and everything. And then for the second regression, because here in this regression, they actually include the fixed effects, I think. So for this table, they actually include a fixed effect. So I should use this table instead. So I should use this command instead to add the fixed effect. So for the second column, using, using to instrument the COP2, all those COP2 inhabitants related prescription, using remove join to kind of predict the actual prescription and then to predict the working outcome. Again, this one is significant. And then the third column, using the COP2 prescription, but for male. So I can add the free. I should add the okay, I'm using again the subset command. Okay, x equal to 1. or I can write male equal to 1. Run regression. Oh, sorry. I have to outline the data is actually in. So, oh, sorry. In the subset, I should not call it subset. It will be the same as the function. Let's call it subset data. Okay, this data. This one subset data. It's actually the same. Subset data male equal to 1. Right. I see. So in fact, this function is a little bit different from. Okay, let's create another subset to save some time. And right here, and now equal to 1. Let's create subset 1. Subset 1. Okay. What's wrong? Let's do it one by one. Okay. And then why is that? Oh, yeah, here. I write the wrong way. Okay, let's copy this one. So let's see what's the problem. Error, the length of weight must equal length of data. Oh yeah, here I have to change that. Oh, I forget to change this one. Yep, this time it should be correct. Right. We create the result. Again, it's significant. And the female, again, if you look at the coefficient, it's not, it's very close, but it's actually 3.323, right? But here is 0.324. And also this is not significant, but here it's actually marginally significant. So because the standard error is a little bit different. A little bit smaller in my estimation than the original paper. Again, this is very close, and probably due to the computation algorithm difference, so it's okay. And the fourth one is using female. So let's copy and paste again. Using 0. So this one is 4, 4, 2, 2. Okay. And 1A1, point 1A1, point 1A1. Again, very close. Again, but the standard error in my estimation is actually it's actually smaller. Probably because I didn't cluster. Okay, maybe because I didn't cluster. Let's try cluster as well. But the one thing is that can I cluster using the okay. The C method. C method. Probably I will need to use bootstrap cluster for that. Okay, let's see if I can do it. Yeah, probably I can add the cluster. Okay, let's try the cluster. Using cluster web equals to IDMT. Do I need to add the Chrome? Let's try not. How about if I cluster? Okay, let's see result. But still, if I even if I cluster, to avoid making any mistake. No, I didn't create a cluster. In fact, why? Let's see the error message. Unique apply argument code variable are depreciated, remove multiple. Why is that? Why? Oh, maybe I need a comma. Let's try the comma. Yeah, let's see. Okay, this time it worked. Yeah, indeed. If I cluster, I get a very close result. Only slightly different. It can be ignored. Not significant result as the table if I cluster. Okay, I should then cluster everything into. Okay, let me add a cluster to other regression as well. So here, just copy and paste. So table 3 at the cluster. Let's see, table 3 can generate similar result. Table 3. Okay. So yeah, this one is similar, and then yeah, actually cluster give a very similar result. So the problem is actually come from cluster. Let's try the first one. First one, again, very similar result, very similar standard error. Yeah, but this time in my result, it's actually a result to very close to 5%, but actually it's not. Oh, I see what's the problem. In fact, the definition of star is actually different from the paper. A star here at the one star actually point to the 10% significant level, not 5%. It actually changes the threshold of the paper. So in fact, it's also create a very similar result. Okay, let's change the column 5 as well. What's the different? Oh, okay, drawn and bed. Okay, I see. So I can copy this to change the column 5 as well. 3. So basically this one I should write become equals to, is it called? Yes, so and the, yeah, right. 3, 5, 5. Okay, let's reruns all the result. Okay. And then using the hubret again. Okay. Yep. Okay. You can. So okay, this is a figure element, so, right? Wait a second. So this is the first. Wait a second. Oh, sorry. There's typo here. 20. Should I put the wrong one? Okay, so this is the result, the second stage result. Okay. Right. So this is the question. Oh, another thing I want to add is also some of your customers actually ask how we can have layer. If we run a simple regression, like a using, for example, here you want a linear model. Think about that. If we predict, for example, the wages, for example, the wages by, for example, ages. That's using another example. We run a linear regression. So we use the wages and ages in sex and wide leg using equal one on the leg. Sorry. Wide Hispanic. How to pronounce it? Hispanic. Yeah. Hispanic, and maybe no height and height grad. Okay, data equal to data, and then it may be some factor variables like region, like imagine I want to see the wage difference by age. Regions, what else? Town, like if I wait, okay, run this regression, simple regression, and I look at the result. Yeah, this are the result that I have. So if I think about that, if I want to draw a simple scatter plot between ages and weight, let's try that. I did forget the ggplot command. What's the syntax for that? Whenever you didn't use the command for a while, you're likely to forget. So you can always easily find examples online that just ggplot. Yeah, 0 point. Yep, this is the way we write the ggplot2 command. So ggplot data as vector. Okay, I see. Ggplot data equal data x equals to ages, y equals to long t, right? And then plus 0 point. We actually have this before. Well, anyway, just an illustration. Okay, this is the result. Yeah, I should find some significant relationship. There's not much variable I can choose from this. Well, let's try another one. I think there is. Yeah, it's 1, 2. Okay, anyway, okay, let's stick to this example. And some of this, then we can also add the regression line. And then smooth count number of zeros. What's the syntax for that? Our method. Yeah, method equal to RM. Yeah, it has a regression line. Anyway, some of your customers may ask me, this is a simple scalable between these two variables, and the line, the regression line here, is only a regression line from bivariance regressions, right? But the original regression line here contains a lot of control variables. And can we also add this control in this simple scatter plot? So if you want to remove those, think about that. So in this simple regression, not simple regression, bivariance regression. So if the interested variable, the dependent variable is wages, and the regress of interest is ages, suppose. And you want to remove all those effects from the control variables, right? One way you can do it is you can kind of run a new regression. You want to get some variance from this long variable that exclude all those control variables, right? So I can actually run just copy this one. And then, but I didn't control the regress of interest. I just can have the control variable. And I run it. And then, so the thing about that, I run this regression without the regressor of interest. I only run the variable against a bunch of control. And I save the result to save the result as control. M. I'm going to remove control. Right this way. Okay. Save all the result as control. Run another regression. To think about that, in this regression, if I attain the residual from this regression, it can be I attain the residual, and then I have the result. I take the result back, attach the result to the original data. So in the data, I generate residual slash RMCTR. That's residuals RMCTR. Wait a minute. Let me see. Oops. Okay, I see what's the problem, because in the regression, we didn't use all the variable because maybe some variable contains the missing value. Let's see which one contains the missing value. Yeah. Oh, summarize. No, summarize. Okay, which one actually contains missing value? We can see here. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's generate a subset of data. Subset data equals to subset, and can copy all these variables inside. If all these variables are not MA and is MA, right? Is MA. Yeah. Okay. So for each variable on right here. No, no. Collage and not. Oh no. Region is also not missed. And so I generate a subset of data if all these variables are not missing and run it. Let's look at the subset. So, where's the subset data? The subset data. If all these variables are not, set's not found. Why? Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Okay. So subset data. So I have all the. So here I use subset data. Why is that? Oh, and the weight. I forget. And the weight. Yeah, I think this time is correct. Right, 300. Yeah, just now it's correct. It has the same. The dataset has the same numbers. Oh yeah, subset data. Okay, I create a residual from the regression and then attach it to a subset data. The variable. So here I have the residual. So think about that. The residual is actually from this particular regression. I add all the control variable. So the residual will be, think about that. Remember, we kind of using regression equation, we separate the variance of the y variable into two parts, right? One part is the variance predicts by all this variable we add inside. Another part is the residual part will be not related to any of the variables that we add into regression, right? So the residual will be those variance of the dependent variable, the wages that is not related to all these control variable. And then after we have that, we can copy the plot command. Now this time, use subset data, and this time, instead of this variable, we can use the remove control, those variance remove, to plot it again. Yes, okay. Okay. Oh, no. it's called the residual. Yeah. So yeah, here is the result. But this time, this graph doesn't look good because the relationship between ages and wages is not that clean. If you use a new package, maybe I can use another example. Let me think about that. The get MITRE. Okay. Let's load the library. Let's use an example using get MITRE. Where does get MITRE's package? Okay, let's load this package. Install. Okay, let's try another example, which may be clear. Let's clean up the space. And then get MITRE. Okay, here oh no, no, it's the data, so get MITRE. Oh, the data is actually called get MITRE. Yeah, right. So I load this data set. Okay, right. Now it's right. It's a trade country data set. And then I write using the get MITRE data. So it has three variables that we're interested in. The country names and life expectancy, population, GDP per capita. So exactly we want to look at the X variable as the GDP per capita. Let's see GDP per capita. Let's do log GDP per cap. And the Y variable is that's life expectancy. Let's take log for both. See if the result looks good. Okay. What's the problem? Why? Because not. Oh, that's static. Okay. Should be another one. Okay. Yeah, it's a clean positive relationship, right? And suppose this regression line is referring to if you run uh, regressions like this right? And data equals to country data. This is like this particular regression line, the blue line is exactly if we're running this regression, that would be this number will be the slope of this regression line. This will be the intercept here, intercept of the y-axis, right? Suppose now we have a more complicated regression. We control for the effects of population, and we control the fixed effect here, and also the fixed effects of country. This is the penalties, right? So we can have a new regression. So this is a new coefficient of population. And compared to before, it's much smaller if you control all the other factor. So again, if we want to draw a new scatter plot, excluding all the effects of this control variable, we can draw the result from this variable. But now we exclude the key x, and then let's see if we have a missing variable problem here. Maybe there's not. Let's see if we have y, the residual of life expectancy. Okay, so now I generate a new variable called the residual from life expectancy. That will be those variants of life expectancy that is removing the effects of population here on countries. And then I draw this scatter plot again. So now the variable instead of life expectancy, I will use the residual RSP. This will be the regression line if we remove the effects of country, year, and population. Okay, but we can try it another way. This thing, if we only remove the effects of population, how the things changes. Let's try. We didn't control the fixed effects this time. We still will have a strong effect. Maybe let's try not control the effects of the year effects. Let's try it. So if we look at the result, it's actually a little bit different compared to before. Yeah. We can actually look at both tables together. Let me find the commands. I keep forgetting the rest of the commands. There's a command that I can use to put the graph together. I think that's cool. Scale. Oh, patchwork. Yeah, patchwork. You can actually use this one. Okay. Let's run two separate regression. This one using the original life expectancy, and then yeah. Okay. Maybe I can add more style inside the theme. Use a classical theme. Let's see if I can change the theme a little bit. It's not a key point just to imagine. Don't actually have that. Right, classic. No, it's not. Can't remember the code for that. I keep forgetting the code. Classic. Oh yeah, yes. Theme classic. Yeah, I can actually use this. Probably. Oh yeah. There's no. Okay. I can use the patchwork. Then on the side, original graph side and residual graph. Okay. Patchwork. Original. What's the symbol? Oh, okay. Forward slash and residual. Okay. Run it first and then patchwork. I didn't install it in my desktop. Plus patchwork. Okay. Original. Did you find? Oh, sorry. Typo here. Original. I can put the graph together to compare with the after I remove the effects from population. Doesn't change too much. Let's modify this a little bit. Maybe country for country. Yes. So instead of I can move the graph from left to right. Yes. No. No. Okay. So you can see this is without the original bivariance regression, the regression line. And then this is the one that if we remove the effects of country and maybe only remove the effects of country, let's see what's the result. Okay. If we remove the effects of country, then now we can see the effect is much smaller. It still have a positive effects. If we remove the effects of country fixed effects, it will be much smaller. And this is the method that we can use to draw a scatter plot and a fig value from multivariance regression. Okay, so the key is you have to generate the residuals of the from that regression and attach and append the data to your original data, and then using the residual from a new regression between the dependent variable and all the control variable to draw the new map, to draw the new graph, so that you can remove the variance. By doing so, you remove the variance of dependent variable that correlated with the control. That's a kind of like remember the atomic regression. Right? This is running from that. Okay. So okay, this is for today. Okay. Let me stop share. This is an illustration. Some of them, some techniques you should be able to find it useful for your final project. Some of them just an extension for what we learn. And I hope if you choose to do data analysis for your final year project, these techniques can be helpful to you to run data analysis as well. So if you have any question related to the final projects, just send me email. Good luck with that. Okay.